Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/maliciouscompliance. Before this video starts, I just want to say that only 20% of you guys are actually subscribed to the Storytime channel. So if you're one of the 80%, then please do subscribe so that you never miss out on another video. But let's get right into the stories. I can't get a refund on my escape room. Okay, let me reschedule then. Context. I own an escape room company in a town which borders a pretty touristy area and is very close to an airport. As such, we tend to get a lot of bookings from people all over the UK who are visiting the area for the weekend or international people coming to do an escape room on the way to the airport. We only take online bookings and don't take walk-ins. Therefore, the site is only really manned whenever we have bookings. As such, our cancellation policy is that we only allow refunds if the cancellation is more than 24 hours before the scheduled start time. If it is 2 to 24 hours before the start time, we can only reschedule the booking. Now, it's worth mentioning that for the majority of cases, weekdays, we are pretty relaxed with our policy as long as it doesn't cause any big issues, and try our best to accommodate a group as usually I am the one hosting them, so there's not any additional expenses on our part, i.e. staff wages / loss of income from other potential customers. However, the only day when this policy is really relevant is on Saturday, where we are almost always entirely booked from the morning to night, and have staff members working for us. So any cancelled slots would most likely have been filled by other customers, and we are of course still paying our staff for that time. Although I must say, we have only ever had to enforce this policy a couple of times, as we are usually accommodating a group in some shape or form. Now onto the MC. So I get a call earlier today from a gentleman with a thick Scottish accent that was scheduled to come in with his group in around 2.5 hours from the time of the call. The group said that they would be unable to make their booking as they were running late with some other activities or something like that, and asked to reschedule the booking for a later slot. I checked our schedule but didn't have any slots left in for today in any of our rooms. He then asked for a refund as they would be returning back to Glasgow tonight and didn't know when they would be next down here. I told him our policy and that our system only allows reschedules instead of refunds due to the time frame, and explained that given it's a Saturday, we can't refund so close to the time as staff has been arranged, slot would have been booked, etc, etc. Rescheduling wouldn't have worked for them as they wouldn't be in the area anytime soon. After a short pause, he asked if we had any free slots to schedule for next month. I checked the system and offered to move the booking to the same time on the 16th of November, to which he said, "Yeah, I think that works." I changed the time on the system and informed him he would get an email confirming the new time slot. He replied, "Great, so the booking is more than 24 hours away now, right?" "Yes, it's booked in for 4 weeks' time from today." "Right, so the booking is more than 24 hours away. I won't be able to make it. Can I have a refund?" I paused for a second, trying to process what had just happened in my head, and realized that he had found a loophole in the system. Technically, his booking was more than 24 hours away, so he is technically entitled to a refund. I started laughing and congratulated him on beating the system as I processed his refund. And just to clarify a few things, number one, as I said, these situations are so rare that it's never really come up often enough to become a big issue, as most groups are fine to just reschedule to another day, and we like to accommodate for groups as best we can. Perhaps if it does become more common, we will look into it, but in the past 2 years-ish we've been open, I can probably count on one hand how many times it's happened. Number 2, this is a common malicious compliance usually done with hotels, doctors, etc., which is why I recognized it as a malicious compliance straight away, and thought it would fit here. Maybe that was the escape room all along, you've got to try and find out how to do the refunds the right way. I got billed for the phone service I never asked for, got charged a late fee, ultimately gave in anyway and ended up winning. This happened in 1999, which is important because consumer cell phone use was pretty new at the time. I was a college student and had just gotten my first cell phone, and as a result didn't need a phone in my dorm room. The school had a small department that managed in-dorm phone service, and you were automatically given an account, but if you cancelled during the first few weeks of school, you weren't billed for those weeks, or for future weeks, obviously. Okay, great. I didn't need a landline, so on my first or second day of campus, I cancelled the service. I expected no bill. But there was a wrinkle. I had an on-campus job and arrived at school a few weeks before classes started. The billing software saw that I had a day of phone service and should have erased it, but it wasn't designed properly. It only erased service from the first few weeks of school, not the weeks before classes began. I was billed about $3 for a day or two of phone service I never signed up for. When I got the bill, I went to the phone department office to explain, and they said no problem, they'd look into it. And surprise surprise, they were able to remove the $3 charge. A month later, I get a new bill in the mail, showing a balance of $3 and a credit of $3, and a late fee of 9 cents for failing to pay the $3 on time. I went back to the phone department and they basically told me that they don't know how to fix it, and that I should just pay the 9 cents fine, and that if I didn't, it would automatically get kicked over to a collections agency and screw up my credit rating. I said that's ridiculous, and they agreed but couldn't fix it. And then someone there jokingly said something about a payment plan. The phone department, being part of the university, wanted to keep students out of hock, so they allowed you to pay your unpaid phone bills over time. This was intended for the stupid freshman who made hours-long long-distance calls to his high school girlfriend, not realizing it was like $4 a minute. But in theory, it applied to my situation too. You could agree to pay any outstanding debt over the remaining months of the school year, which in my case meant 1 cent per month for 9 months. I asked them to sign me up. For the next 9 months, they sent me a 1 cent bill, which by rule I had to go to the phone office to pay within 10 days. I did, and they'd give me a receipt, which I asked them to mail. In total, they sent me 20 letters, 9 bills, 9 receipts, plus the original bill and the one with the late fee in it. At the 30 cents or so in postage that they had to pick up, it cost them at least $6 to get my 9 cents. At first I was like, wow, that's a bit petty that he's not paying $3, and then I read the entire story and I was like, that was really good. Just get the source. Obligatory, this was the turn of the century. I was 17 and worked as a silver service waiter in the corporate boxes at a stadium for a Premier League football team, who have a reputation for having mostly out-of-town fans. As a silver service waiter, your job was to make sure the box was clean for whoever was using it that day, make sure the fridges were stocked with refreshments, serve dinner after the game, depending on kickoff time, and make tea and coffee during. When you weren't required, you stood outside the box until the attention light outside the door lit up. I wasn't very good at my job. I frequently forgot things, but my patter with the customers usually saw me through. One day, I was working on a box owned by a major refuse collection company, and the occupants that day were 4 of their high-level management from Scotland. 3 of them were nice enough blokes, but one was definitely the douchebag of the group. I let slip I supported an opposing team, and he jokingly derided me about it until it was so unfunny, I just started ignoring him, and whilst everyone else would help themselves to beers and teas, he'd demand that I did it. After the match, it was time to serve dinner. I can't remember what the starter was, but the main was roast beef with mash and veg, and dessert was profiteroles with chocolate sauce. I dished everything out, and went to get the gravy, but because I was so danged slow, there was none left. When I went back to tell the box, they were all fine with it, except the douchebag. "This is ridiculous, go and get me some sauce." "I'll see what I can do, but they're definitely out of gravy." "Just get the sauce." I went into the kitchen and asked the chef dutifully for some sauce. He looked confused and told me they were out of gravy. He doesn't want gravy, he wants some sauce. The chef poured me a ladle of the sauce into a gravy boat and handed it to me. "Are they having dessert already?" "No." I left the kitchen, re-entered my box, and put the gravy boat in front of the douchebag. Then I left, and waited. 30 seconds later, I hear a loud expletive and see the attention light is lit. I walk in to find douchebag red-faced. "It's freaking chocolate!" "Yes, for the profiteroles." "Oh, you didn't put it on your dinner, did you?" He had. "Get me another one." At this stage, there were no dinners left, as the staff had eaten them all, so he had to make do with a sandwich while his friends laughed at him. I can't remember whether he had dessert or not. Surely the catering should have enough gravy for everyone, but I guess it was well deserved in that situation. "You want me to submit timesheets? You got it." I used to work at a large international company in an inside sales role, where we were paid on a salary plus commission basis. My boss sucked, there was no career path, and the corporation was an incoherent mess. But the team was cool and the money was good, so it wasn't a bad gig overall. Fast forward to the end of my second year on the team, and our boss calls a team meeting where his boss announces that after a long, protracted battle with the Department of Labor, our team were being reclassified as hourly employees, and going forward we would need to submit timesheets in order to receive our base earnings. Needless to say, we were accustomed to taking all the free time available to us during the day for lunch, coffee/smoke breaks, etc. Not to mention accruing and using vacation time that no one actually bothered tracking. This was not a popular decision. After a few minutes of us arguing and pushing back against this, my boss announced that the decision was done and we earned the bulk of our pay through commissions, so we'll just have to deal with it. Okay, fine. At this point, I feel like I should mention that I have a somewhat casual relationship with time. When it comes to important things like client appointments, I'm always prompt and ready to go on time, but in terms of showing up for work exactly when I need to start my day, or 5 minutes early as some bosses expect, is just not my thing. My attitude has always been that as long as you're producing and getting your job done, who cares if you're 15 minutes late in the morning, or take an extra long break in the afternoon, or peace out right at 5 on the dot. It's an office job, not one where someone else is relying on my promptness to end their shift. I've consistently been a top 2 or 3 performer, and while I've had my share of obligatory please show up on time conversations with bosses, they eventually realize I'm super productive, so just let me do my thing. So now I need to start documenting my time. I checked the official HR notice about the change, and my role is expected to work a maximum of 40 hours a week. And now that I'm an hourly employee instead of salaried, I'm, surprise surprise, eligible for overtime. Well, if I'm forced to do this, and rules are rules, then I'm going to document my hours perfectly. I start noting exactly when I show up at the office in the morning, start and end of every break, and exactly when I leave down to the minute. At the same time, I started to work straight through my lunch hour, and I started showing up a few minutes earlier than usual to start my day too, to clock in properly. I started submitting timesheets for 45 to 50 hours per week, and started to bank a fat chunk of overtime at time and a half per paycheck that I previously was ineligible for, and was not budgeted for by the company. Fast forward a few weeks and my boss calls me over to his desk. He had my timesheet up with start and end times like 8:23 AM and 5:12 PM, etc., and was not happy. I forgot what exactly he said, but he basically told me to knock it off and round my times to the official start and end time like everyone else on the team. He wasn't a bright individual, and I realized 3 things. He just didn't like counting my hours to the minute. Basic math is tough. He never said anything about my non-existent lunch breaks, and he either knew nothing or said nothing about my overtime pay. No problem, boss, you got it. From then on, my start and end times matched the official times, but I continued to either work through my lunch or take only 30 minutes of the allocated 60 minutes, and continued to submit timesheets with 2 to 5 hours of overtime. I never heard another peep from my boss, and a few weeks later they quietly discontinued the manual timesheets and just paid us in full at our annual salaried rate. Yep, well deserved. I'm pretty sure there's something illegal about rounding the numbers though. I don't know though. Just a quick reminder, if you aren't already subscribed, please do hit subscribe down below so that you never miss out on another video. If you want to see some other videos, then click on screen right now.